Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious. That sentence, which I once penned to distill the paradox of controlled societies, has proven more enduring than I could have imagined. In my time, I saw the rise of totalitarianism, first in the form of fascism, then in the bureaucratic tyranny of Stalinist communism. I watched as entire populations were fed lies, stripped of history, and forced into mental submission. It was never just about oppression, it was about perception, thought, the ability to know what one truly believes, and whether one is permitted to believe it at all. In such societies, rebellion does not begin with rifles or riots, it begins with thought, with the ability to recognize falsehood. But therein lies the tragedy. The people most in need of rebellion are often the least capable of imagining it, because their minds have been molded by the very forces they must resist. Thus, consciousness and rebellion are caught in a cruel chicken-and-egg dilemma. One cannot rise up without awakening, but cannot awaken without first challenging what they are told is truth. This was the engine of 1984, not merely dystopia, but a warning. A world where reality is curated, language is restricted, and even your thoughts are suspect. And while I wrote of telescreens and ministries of truth, the mechanisms have evolved. Today they arrive not in boots and uniforms, but in algorithms, in curated news feeds, in smiling spokespeople who speak in slogans. In today's world, the chains are digital. The surveillance is data-driven. The censorship comes not from a censor's pen, but from corporate platforms that determine what is visible and what is not. You do not need to be burned at the stake when your ideas can simply be shadow banned. And here is the danger. When people believe they are free, but their reality is curated, their language engineered, their outrage redirected, then the architecture of control is nearly complete. The illusion of choice is the most effective prison of all. So what is to be done? First, one must become conscious, not just of what they're told, but of what is not being said. Study contradictions, follow the threads, ask who benefits. Trust not the loudest voices, but the most inconvenient truths. Question even your own assumptions. Second, share that awareness. Consciousness cannot thrive in isolation. Speak, write, debate. Rebellion need not always be loud, but it must be persistent. Truth spreads not by force, but by courage. Lastly, remember this. Tyranny wears many masks. It may come draped in the flag or cloaked in safety. It may promise unity while silencing dissent. But its aim is always the same, to prevent you from thinking freely, questioning openly, and remembering clearly. You are not powerless. The fact that you are still able to read these words, to hear this message, means you are not yet lost. But the clock is ticking. The information war of the 21st century is not a war of borders. It is a war of minds. Until you become conscious, you will never rebel. But once you do, the world will never look the same. In spirit, George Orwell.